Welcome back. Protests going on right now in Charlotte. We've just gotten word that the mayor has signed an order for a curfew. It takes effect at midnight, lasting until 6 a.m. As I mentioned, a man who was shot during last night's protest in Charlotte has died. We're going to show you some video of the aftermath of that shooting. Disturbing, but we blurred it heavily. Well, the man on the left side of the screen in the purple shirt tried to help the shooting victim. Sadly, that victim, 26-year-old Justin Carr, has now died. The stranger who tried to help him is Sammy Sherrill. He joins me now. Sammy, thanks so much for being with us and for what you tried to do last night. You had just gotten out of the hospital, I understand, after suffering an asthma attack when in front of the hotel during the altercation, a man was shot. Can you walk me through what happened?
I mean, as far as I remember is like once I left the hospital, I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, got some wings, and the police directed everybody to start walking up Trade Street with the protesters. So as they started shuffling up, getting everybody boxed in, we walked up to the Omni Hotel. They had a barricade to the valet parking room. So as you see a couple people running, you hear a gunshot. I was behind him, but I didn't see nobody shoot. I didn't see who hit him. But as I looked up, he was just laying on the ground. No one helped him. The police just looked at him. So as I tried to get on top of him, help him out, yelling for help, I picked him up, took him to the hotel, valet parking room and whatnot. And that's when they barricaded us in. And that's when they snatched me off of Justin. And they let a tear gas off, like 2 or 3 of them. And they dragged Justin off. And they left me in there. So some protesters found me crawling, having an asthma attack. And next you know, I woke up in the hospital.
And the man who was shot, was he conscious at the time?
Yes, sir. Like once I got on top of him, he was breathing, he was conscious, but the police did not, they didn't do no help. Like they just looked, the crowd just looked, and I think it should have been more to the police to help us out though.
So you ended up back in the hospital with an asthma attack?
Oh yes, sir. I had a severe asthma attack this time. Now I got to walk around with an inhaler. But I used to just walk around, but I guess the tear gas got to me too much.
Why, the man who was shot last night indeed has passed away, and I don't know if you had heard that, yet you still came back out tonight. Why did you want to be out there tonight again?
I mean, cause it's time, we gotta take a stand, man. Like, either we're gonna stand for something or we'll die for nothing. So if more people stop recording it and get down and get your hands dirty, like help somebody out. If you see a man and help him out. Don't just walk off and run and record and talk about it.
Well, Sammy, I appreciate you trying to help last night. I appreciate you talking to us tonight. Thanks very much. Be careful out there.
Oh, yes, sir.
I want to show you, these are pictures right now in Dallas, Texas, I'm told, where there are some protests underway. These are the first time we are seeing these images. Can't tell how large the crowd is. Clearly a heavy police presence there. And we're going to continue to follow the situation in Dallas. We're also obviously following developing stories in Tulsa, where the officer involved in that shooting has been charged with manslaughter. And this is the scene now in Charlotte, where we have a number of reporters on the ground. Georgetown University sociology professor Michael Eric Dyson is with us, former LAPD officer David Klinger, and retired NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher. David Klinger, it is, to what that young man Sammy was saying, you have a situation, we were talking about this before, you have all these people with cell phone cameras recording things, wanting to get in altercations and record that or provoke something, and also others who just want to document the protests that are going on. It is a very strange dynamic, having been out in a number of situations like this.
Absolutely, and it complicates things for the police in terms of being able to manage the particular event that they're called upon to manage, because almost invariably it becomes a crowd control situation as well as responding to the traffic stop, the family dispute, whatever the case might be.
Michael Eric Dyson, you talked about the kind of the historical, that this doesn't happen in a vacuum, that there is a history here, that many of the people who are out on the streets tonight, it is not just this one incident. It is a litany of incidents that they have seen, that they have experienced and know about. I imagine some people who listen to you say that also point to people breaking into a store and looting a store and say, how is that part of a legitimate protest? What do you say to that? Do you see that as just opportunism, or is that, well, how do you see it?
Well, look, obviously there are people who are upset. They are outraged. They are chagrined. They feel that they have nothing left in this world to do but to offend a piece of property or engage in other acts of, some would say, violence. And I don't condone any of that, but I don't condone people who, after the fact, they don't see the foot that is on the person's neck, but they blame them for hollering too loudly, so to speak. So the reality is we see the response, and we should rightfully engage in an analysis of that response and talk about what is productive and what is not, what is constructive and what is not. On the other hand, we can't pretend that we don't know what makes them holler. We can't pretend that we don't know what leads to this. And I would say to Brother Klinger, one of the things about the complications that the video brings is to complicate a narrative that police put forward where they suggest, oh, I felt helpless. Oh, I was afraid for my life. When so many other times that video stream has allowed us to see that they were lying. There's a culture of mendacity that's there as well. The reason those people are asking for the tape to be released and for us to have some kind of transparency is because they lack transparency in their interactions with the police. The police have been able to, without the verification that is provided by some of these videos, to go on and lie on these people who are citizens, to say their story is the right story, and we had nothing else to, in one sense, juxtapose to what those police were saying. Now, in this complicated digital world, there are multiple sources of video that prove that the truth is a lot more complicated than the police make it out to be, and perhaps it would hold them accountable in a way that they might not otherwise be. So I think in that sense, the historical leverage of the pain, the suffering, the heartbreak that these people feel, I don't condone any kind of destruction of material. I don't condone destruction of property, but I don't condone the destruction of people's lives, hopes, aspirations, and ideals when in an American society that is supposed to protect their democracy, to protect their right to exist, they are often, in that sense, offended. They are often killed. They are often left aside, and they are often dismissed. In this sense, it is a cry for attention. It is a cry for recognition. It is a cry for a fundamental belief that we are all equal, and therefore we should be all treated equally.
Darren Porcher, you were with the NYPD. You were a retired lieutenant. You talked about having worked internal affairs. I'm wondering what you learned in that process of internal affairs. I mean, does the presence of videos, does it help? I mean, the whole notion of body cams on police, do you think it will help with that, the criticism that there is a sense of, or used to be a sense of impunity in some quarters of law enforcement? Do you think it will help?
Well, the landscape in policing is changing. I am a strong proponent of body cameras and transparency in policing. We as police are public servants. Therefore, we serve the public there, and we need to act accordingly. Police need to be the avid professionals. So when we take in consideration body cams or anything that can assist in the revolution in policing, I'm a strong proponent for, because policing has a long way to go. I mean, granted, it's come strides over the years, but we still have a lot of issues when we look at the atrocities that have happened in the past in connection with not just African Americans, but Latinos, other newly minted citizens that come into this country. Therefore, we need to move away from that, and how can we best address a quintessential focus in policing? And I believe the body cameras, or I want to say technological advancements, are a significant component. Because believe it or not, and this is something that doesn't really come up much, a lot of these technological advancements have been great assistance, greatly assisted in the reduction in crime. Because how many times have you seen a video on television, this person stole a bag or this person did that, contact police?
Right.
It has proven to be an effective mechanism in change.
We
Therefore,
certainly certainly just saw it, here in New York with the
With the terrorist attack.
Yeah.
Right.
David Klinger, as a criminologist, as a former LAPD officer, I just want you to weigh in if you want on anything you just heard.
Yeah, briefly.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like to point out is that an awful lot of the videos that have come out following officer-involved shootings clearly exonerate the officer.
Absolutely.
And so we have to understand that it cuts both ways. And then the other thing, I appreciate that Professor Dyson called me brother. I will call him Brother Dyson.
I always like it when Professor Dyson calls me brother. It makes my day, frankly. So.
There we go. But anyway, so my point is, all I'm arguing about in terms of the issue of the cameras is none of the police officers that I know have any objection to being videoed. The objection is that the citizens sometimes encroach and get too close. And then that creates that reactive thing that we were talking about.
You know what?
If citizens stand back, I've never talked to any police officer who is concerned about that. What they're concerned about is when the citizens get too close or are trying to instigate something. I think that Professor Dyson and I are probably actually quite close on this point.
I just want to piggyback on something real quick. Hold on, let me get this point in.
Darren,
The PBA, the NYPD's PBA conducted a study earlier this year, and an overwhelming 70% of all police officers in the NYPD were in approval and acceptance of the video cameras because it goes of the body cams, and it goes back to what the gentleman mentioned earlier. Many instances it exonerates a cop, and in addition to that, it reveals the complete narrative, because oftentimes when we have people that have cell phone cam, for example, it knows a snippet of what the narrative was. However, if an officer's wearing a body camera, it shows a more
complete.
comprehensive overview.
Professor Dyson?
Let me say this. It is not only about the kind of optics of the case so that people can see what's going on and they can record it with a certain level of fidelity. It is also about a broader issue. Look, I'm a black man in America. I have been accosted by the police. I have been mistreated by the police. I have been called the N-word by the police. I have been beat down by the police. I have a PhD from Princeton University. I have abided by the law all my life. And yet my interactions with the police have been fraught with terror. And I think what we're discounting here is the degree to which the police are the manifestation of terror against black life that has been rendered vulnerable and disposable in America. And as a result of that, our interactions with them will be also fraught with that kind of fear. So when the police have a legitimate concern about, as Brother Klinger said, if they're too close, that is the people who are looking at them. But what we have to do is look at the broader backdrop. There has been a look of disgust, of disdain, of a kind of negative reaction from so many police toward African American and Latino people that we can't in one sense exempt them from a broader culture of disregard for these people. So the camera is but one smaller part of a larger whole, and that is how police people see African American or Latino people. Do you see us as human? Do you see us as people who you would treat like your uncle? That's why community policing is so important. If police people live in other states and come in,
I treated everybody
and then
equally.
they treated them well. That's you, but we have evidence that that doesn't occur. And as a result of that, your exemplary behavior, if it could be replicated, would be laudable. But the fact is that
most of the men and women that I know behave like me, sir.
But sir, look at this. That's like going to the doctor and saying, look, most of my cells are fine, but a few are cancerous. It's the cancerous ones that will kill the body. And right now, the cancerous police people are killing the body of, if you will, justice for so many African American Latino people.
And nobody wants those officers out of policing more than the good police officers, who are the vast majority of officers that I've met in the last 35 years.
But that thin blue line is pretty good. The kind of fidelity and no snitching among police people.
Police
is
are not
pretty rough.
A monolithic culture. You have different variations of police. I constantly hear about either the good police or the bad police. How about what falls in the middle? Police are not this monolithic culture that people portray them as being. You have to deal with each situation accordingly. Just like yourself, Professor Dyson, I have a doctorate degree too. And I am a black man and I grew up in the streets of New York. I've had a lot of these encounters myself, but you have to be able to compartmentalize each situation differently Because if not, when you lump people together, that's when this implicit bias kicks in, and that's when we have a great.
Sure, I'm
I
not
gotta
talking
jump
about.
in.
Well, no, we're not talking about lumping together. We're talking about trends that can be defined. We're talking about empirically verifiable actions that should be documented. And I'm not talking about not treating people as individuals. I'm saying, however, we can't deny the science of it, and we can't deny what overwhelmingly is presented to us as fact.
I gotta jump in and get a break. Brother Dyson, Brother Klinger, Brother Porcher, thank you. We'll come back to all of you. I want to bring in past. Actually, I want to take a quick break. Then we'll be right back.